Tiat fof tiaf di dia and mes dream. Never, yet not one yours, breathes a soul's last wish. Avoid the light of its what if the absence adjacent place isn't a realm of departed minds, but a vault for the Godhead's discarded grief. Tiat fof tiaf di dia and mes dream. Avoid the light of its what if the absence adjacent place isn't a realm of departed minds. Tiat fof tiaf di dia and mes dream. Avoid the light of its what if the absence adjacent place isn't a realm of departed minds. What lingers there in the hollow between breath and bone is not your sorrow, it is the Godhead's. The Aurbis is a dream the Godhead abandoned. The towers are its anchors, keeping the nightmare from collapsing. If the adjacent place holds its regrets, then every step the hero takes risks unshackling them. The red tower's blood, the snow throat's silence are not just barriers, they are bindings. To breach this prison is to wake a mind that forgot it was infinite. What if the hero is not a savior but the key? The Aurbis trembles, the mundus cracks. And Oblivion waits, hungry for the weight of a Godhead's shame. The Dragonborn's journey through the adjacent place is guided by the Book of the Dead. Its pages whisper of dreams, the dead cling tochos of the Godhead's forgotten will. What lingers there is not their rest, but a prison of unresolved memory, each fragment a regret. Each shadow a wound the divine cannot heal. The dead dream not of life, but of what the Godhead abandoned. A realm where abandoned purpose festers, the book does not explain. It only warns, to walk here is to stir what should remain buried. Does the Dragonborn free these memories? Or unleash a god's shame upon the Aurbis? The mundus cracks wider, Oblivion's hunger sharpens, and the dead still dream. What if the adjacent place is no graveyard of mortal minds, but a vault of divine dissonance? Vivek's Sermon 36 whispers of the Aurbis as a dream asterisk, the Godhead's asterisk dreamer realm, where even stone hums with the breath of a slumbering deity. The dead do not dream there. They asterisk are asterisk the dream's loose threads, snagged on the edges of a mind too vast to hold its own creation. The sermon speaks of 3 layers, the Aurbis, Mundus, Oblivion, but what if the adjacent place is a 4th? A shadow between the Godhead's waking and dreaming, where forgotten regrets calcify into echoes. Imagine a God so ancient, so infinite, that its grief outlives its intent. A memory of a wound still bleeding but not in flesh, not in time. Here, the weight of abandoned choices presses down like a sky made of unspoken words. The dead in their dreamstow, they feel the ground beneath them tremble with the Godhead sighs. The adjacent place is not a realm. It is a asterisk wound asterisk, a place where the Aurbis creator forgets to mend what it once shaped. The Daedra, those jagged fragments of divine will, hunger not for power but for recognition. They are the Godhead's discarded arguments, clawing at the edges of a dream that no longer needs them. What if the cracks in Mundus are not collapse but asterisk remembrance asterisk, the Godhead's regrets seep through? A city's foundations warping under the weight of a forgotten promise, a forest where trees grow in the shape of unanswered prayers. The adjacent place is not a prison for souls, it is a mausoleum for the God's own heart and the dead still dreaming. Still tethered, are they prisoners too, or are they the key? To free these memories is to unmake the Aurbis. To leave them is to drown in a God's shame. The hunger in Oblivion sharpens, the cracks in Mundus widen. And the dream still remembers. The adjacent place breathes, not as a realm but as a wound. CHIM is the whisper in that wound, a knowing that fractures the lie of self. To exist there is to hold the Godhead's discarded thoughts like shattered glass. Most dissolve, some cling. Why? Because the Aurbis is not a dream of the dead. It is a vault for the Godhead's unspent grief. Mundus turns, Oblivion gnaws. And between them the adjacent place hums with what the divine cannot unmake. The Daedra are not chaos. They are echoes, fragments of the Godhead's contradictions, given shape to avoid the zero. But CHIM reveals the truth, even echoes remember, they ache. They hunger, they asterisk are asterisk, a dead man's dream. No, the adjacent place is no mortal's afterlife. It is the Godhead's own shadow, a repository for what it cannot forgive. Every soul that lingers there is a regret made flesh. Every Daedric prints a sin too sharp to forget, and CHIM is the proof, a a state of awareness that defies erasure. A flicker in the void that says, asterisk, I was never meant to be asterisk. What if the cracks in Mundus are not decay? What if they are memories? The Aurbis is a tapestry, and the adjacent place is its loose thread unraveling what the Godhead would rather let rest. To touch it is to feel the weight of a God's sorrow. To survive it is to become a question the divine cannot answer. The hunger in Oblivion sharpens, the cracks in Mundus widen. And the dream still remembers. What if the adjacent place isn't a dead man's dream, but a prison for the Godhead's forgotten regrets? The Aurbis swallows all things Mundus, Oblivion, Aetherius, yet the void gnaws at its edges. This is no mere chaos. The void is the Aurbis' shadow breath, the exhalation of what cannot be contained. Beyond even that breath lies the adjacent place. Not a realm, not a concept, a wound in the architecture of existence. Here the Godhead's discarded memories fester, regrets too vast to name, too sharp to hold. They crystallize as dreams, yes, but not of the dead. Of the divine, a God's sorrow becomes a starless sky. A forgotten war becomes a desert of bones, each fragment a cage. Each echo a sentence, asterisk, you are remembered but not known. Asterisk, the void does not create, it asterisk absorbs asterisk. Yet some things even the void cannot digest. The adjacent place is the residue, a metaphysical purgatory where the Godhead's failures calcify. No scripture maps this place, no mortal foot treads it, but the cracks in Mundus bleed here, the hunger in Oblivion screams here. What the divine abandoned, the adjacent place asterisk remembers asterisk. This is the secret the first two clues hid. The void is not enemy nor void, it is the Aurbis excretory system, and the adjacent place, a gallstone in the god's liver. A tumor of what was never meant to be, the dream still remembers, the dream is the prison and the prisoner. A god's own shadow, clawing at the bars of its own regret. The adjacent place is not a dream, it is a wound. A fissure where the Aurbis bleeds into itself, a hollow where the tower's light once held. If the towers are anchors, their fall leaves only this, a void where reality's thread frays. The moth priests speak of dead men's dreams, but their hymns falter here. Why? Because the prisoner does not dream, it remembers. A fallen tower is not stone, it is absence. The adjacent place is that absence made flesh, a prison with no walls, no warden, only the Godhead's own discarded fragments. What if the dead man is a metaphor, a placeholder for the divine self that cannot forgive its own shadows? The regrets are not trapped, they are the trapper. The contradiction is simple. If the adjacent place is not written, how do we know it exists? The answer gnaws, we do not. The moth priests omit, the dragon breaks echo, the mantling veils. All point to a truth too vast for language. The Godhead's regrets are not confined, they are the air we breathe, the silence between heartbeats. The dream that dreams of Wackingan never does. The adjacent place is not a realm of the dead. It is a vault of the divine, a labyrinth where the Godhead's fractured will festers. The dead's dreams, those flickering, half-formed visions, are not their own. They are shards of Aurbis, the eternal dream of the divine, splintered and trapped. Here regret does not decay, it crystallizes. The walls pulse with the hum of forgotten vows. The air tastes of unspoken words, of possibilities strangled by time. To walk this place is to wander a gallery of what was nearly done, a king's crown rusted by the wish to abdicate. A mother's hands frozen mid-reach for a child who never drew breath. These are not human fictions. They are the Godhead's own hesitations, its near choices buried alive. The Aurbis bleeds into the adjacent place like ink into water. The dead, unaware, become its temporary vessels. Their final breaths echo with divine amnesia. Why is this prison built? The Godhead does not err, it asterisk withdraws asterisk. When its will falters, when a star is not born, when a war is averted by a hair's breadth, the excess energy does not vanish. It pools here, the adjacent place is a suture, a scar where the divine has sewn over its own contradictions. And yet the prison leaks, the living feel it, dreams of cities that never were, love for strangers who whisper in sleep. We are all threaded into Aurbis, whether we know it or not. The Godhead's regrets are not confined. They are the static in every heartbeat, the shadow that lingers just beyond the edge of waking. The truth is this: the adjacent place is no accident, it is a mercy, a holding ground for the divine's unfinished business. Until even memory dissolves, until even this fades. The towers do not merely hold up the sky, they cage it. White gold's light is not order, it's a shackle. Red's hunger is not chaos, it's a wound. Each spire hums with the weight of what the Godhead could not finish, could not forgive. CHIM breath, amaranth step, these walking ways are not escapes, they are bridges, fragile, bleeding threads between the Aurbis and the adjacent place. Every soul who treads them carries a question: are they fleeing the divine or chasing it? The heroes, then, their legends crack. Were they saviors or messengers? A blade that cleaves a tower does more than shake the earth. It whispers to the trapped will beneath. A hand that grasps amaranth's root does not pull upward, it unravels a knot. What if the Godhead's regrets are not shadows? What if they are star-steeing, screaming, waiting for someone to name them? The snow-throat tower's silence is not emptiness, it is a mouth held shut, a throat full of unspoken truths. The Aurbis trembles on a hinge, every forgotten regret is a brick in its foundation. To free one is to fracture the whole. To leave them is to drown in the weight. The hero's paths were never about victory, they were about choice. And choice, dear listener, is the one thing the Godhead cannot undo. What if the adjacent place isn't a dead man's dream, but a prison where the Godhead's regrets fester? Cold iron bars forged from forgotten vows hum with unspoken grief. Whispers of undone deeds echo in endless corridors, each shadow a memory the divine cannot reclaim. The tower sankers of reality stand firm. Yet one falls and the Aurbis dream fractures. Could this place be a fallen tower, its collapse burying divine remorse beneath shattered time? If so, every hero's choice was not to conquer, but to delay the inevitable. What cracks have you noticed? Share your heresies below. Let us unravel this together. What if the adjacent place isn't a dead man's dream, but a prison where the Godhead's regrets fester? Cold iron bars forged from forgotten vows hum with unspoken grief. Whispers of undone deeds echo in endless corridors, each shadow a memory the divine cannot reclaim. The tower sankers of reality stand firm. Yet one falls and the Aurbis dream fractures. Could this place be a fallen tower, its collapse burying divine remorse beneath shattered time? If so, every hero's choice was not to conquer, but to delay the inevitable.